Welcome to the postgame lobby. I'm here joined by Dracos, Freeze, and Videos. And today we'll be talking about today's matches.
You did so good! Take me back. No, you have to leave. I just still need to beat the host.
Be here all the time.
Good job.
All right, you wanted to try it, but I guess let's just start. Perkz, it was a lot closer than I think a lot of people expected. So why don't you talk to me about how you felt about that game? We heard Hjarnan and Wadid kind of down. How are you feeling personally?
I mean, I'm not down nor happy. I'm just like a little bit disappointed with our play on stage. Like, the only reason why we won this game is because our GP and Ezreal stole the Nashor. And yeah, that is actually the only reason we won this game. So yeah, it's quite disappointing performance from us, but win is a win, and it's a best of one, so like you have to take the win and like be grateful for the win, but like, I'm nowhere close to being satisfied. So.
It's tough. I mean, it feels like you guys are still finding these wins, but it seems like you guys are always hungry, always moving forward, looking for more. Freeze, Vedius, how did you feel about this from G2? Did you see a lot of the same weaknesses that Perkz is talking about now? Were you impressed with the play?
I mean, I feel like one of the strategies the Unicorns of Love have been trying out for the last, this week specifically, is invest more resources into the middle lane. And I don't know if Perkz felt it, but to me, it felt like Cold was ganking mid a lot. And we saw a lot of action happening around the middle lane often. And when Veigar was picking up 1 kill, 2 kills, you think, okay, this isn't too bad. But when he's sitting at 4 kills and you're just slightly out of position, that guy becomes a massive threat that becomes very difficult to deal with. So for me, it's nice that Unicorns of Love are picking up a strategy that at the very least seems to be putting a lot of pressure on some of our top teams.
And Freeze,
yeah, but then again, you know, some of the Veigar plays, they were good, but then Exile just finds his ways how to step forward too much and gets caught. Then G2 was just getting him off, picking him off, and getting these kills and prolonging the game. And then, you know, like with the comp they had, if they get to late game, they will win.
Yeah, it's interesting to me with the Veigar pick coming in. You guys put Nunu and Azir together. It feels like there's a lot of carry priority on you with those two picks, especially with Hjarnan playing the Ezreal. Were you expecting the Veigar to be picked as an answer to this? And were you worried about like the late game in that theoretical world where he can, you know, one-shot you at some point in the game?
I mean, usually what people play against Azir is like Ryze or Zoe or Veigar. So yeah, I was expecting one of those three, but I don't really think that Veigar is such a big counterpick to Azir. I think it's mostly us misplaying as a team. I don't even think like he did anything in this game. It was mostly just Zac and Alistar, and we played worse than them, and they were playing a little better than us throughout the whole game until Nash point. So yeah, I wasn't scared of Veigar pick myself, no.
All right, that's interesting, because I mean, it had been kind of a problem a little bit before, but it's good to hear that it's not something you're concerned about. Of course, we are going to award a player of the game. It is going to go to Jankos on the Nunu bot.
Seriously?
Yeah. I'm not supposed to say that.
He was smurfing so hard.
Yeah, Ezreal stole the Baron.
All right,
too.
wait. I just saw a Wunder clip, but I bet it is Jankos. I've been told it's Jankos. You can see that we're divided as a production.
It's a fan vote.
That is so rigged.
It is the fan vote. That is the thing, and it was 36%. So that to me says it was clearly a close vote between the players.
And it apparently 1% over Perkz too. Apparently Wunder was not in contention. So
why don't people vote for? Why don't you vote for Wunder, guys? Like,
because people love you.
He's so good.
They love Disco Nunu a little bit more, but they love you. I mean, Wunder. I agree. Wunder has been playing insane. So before we talk about our next matchup, tell me how you feel about him as a top laner, because I feel like he just does not die, and he is always going off in every team fight.
Well, I knew Wunder was a good player since since his season 6 summer split. Like, he had his off games last year on Splice, but Splice as a whole was like just like on and off. And honestly, like, I'm a bit surprised with how consistent he's performing. Like, I think he's the best performer on our team right now in these 8 games or something we played. Actually, we already played 8 games, yeah. It's going fast. And yeah, I don't know, Wunder is just insanely good. Like, he wins every lane, both sides, doesn't die. He has a lot to improve on, because every good player has still a lot to improve on. And he's, just willing to improve. So, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's been doing fantastic thus far. Let's look ahead to our next match of course, Fnatic and Giants going toe-to-toe. So many fights back and forth. Going to be the 2-0 in the first 2-0 week of the split coming in for them. So, what were your thoughts on this game?
Who would have thought that Giants is just going to destroy, you know, like in the early game? That was just amazing for me to see. But then again, you know, Soaz didn't tilt after he got slightly camped, and then
Slightly camped. The guy didn't run flash. Yes, they literally just sat top
He ran
lane.
Ignite TP for like 20 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
he was asking for it.
He did get
He
solo
got
kills.
kills. I think enemy top lane did not realize that he had Ignite.
Yeah. The first time for sure he didn't realize.
Second time too, like he was just pressing.
He was sitting there being like, surely after getting ganked twice, he would not keep the TP and Ignite. But he did, and he finds the solo kills. So, and he was a big reason as to why they were able to come back. Like, his performance throughout the rest of the game was really solid. The amount of knockups he got on the Ornn, it's not conventionally what you see with the Ornn. He's really utilized for his ultimate, but Soat's having a fantastic game, and overall, Fnatic looking good.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Perkz, what do you do against this Kassadin, Taric, Jarvan kind of engage combo? It just seems like once Kassadin gets rolling, it's impossible to stop him from just picking people off.
I mean, it's pretty annoying, I agree, like in mid-game, like when Kassadin gets some items, but Kassadin was equal CS to Azir on lane, so I don't know what happened there. Like, Azir might have disconnected on lane. Yeah, if Kassadin is equal CS on lane and can pressure, then maybe the matchup is just good for him. I don't know. Or maybe the enemy either misplayed or the team misplayed. There can be a lot of factors like going into the game. So yeah, it was for sure. They executed it well. I like the flashy. I mean, the old thingy with Taric stun. Like, it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's pretty dirty. It's pretty. It looks impossible to get away from. I do not ever want to play against that. But I think we talked about Soaz as being a really strong point for the team after, admittedly, a few missteps in the early game. He did receive a lot of attention. But Rekkles and Caps also felt like they were pretty on point this game. The Kassadin and the Tristana working together. Does it feel like the Fnatic carries are finally starting to get on the same page?
Feels like there's less pressure on Caps to be the big playmaker, and it also feels like Rekkles is more willing to work with his team. So I feel like the unit as a whole seems to be coming together. The early game still needs a bit of work. Some of Brox's ganking and vision seems to be a little bit off, but I do like what he's providing in team fights, and I think that is really where this Fnatic roster is shining right now.
Yeah, and Rekkles likes Tristana, you know.
Yeah,
he loves the
first
champion.
pick insta-lock likes Tristana.
It's like, give me Tristana, I will carry you guys. That's how he feels.
Every time, man. Gets the farm in the side lane, comes back, tries to ping around the team fights. Frieza, I'm curious for you, if we look at the opposite side, if we look for Giants, how do they actually respond to this loss? What do they do coming into the following weeks? Because they've been so good. They've clearly proven that they can fight at the top of the table, but now it does feel like they are faltering a little bit.
Well, they have to keep improving at a steady pace because every other team that is at the top of the standings they're improving much more than Giants are. So they have to find the space, they have to find their issues they have to fix, and they have to work on them pretty closely.
And just as a last point, Perkz, I'm curious as to what your impression of Giants has been so far this split. Did they surprise you as much as I think they've surprised the rest of us?
I mean, they for sure surprised me. Teams like Giants and Roccat, even Vitality, I think those three teams are like top of the table. Maybe not anymore, but like they were top of the table and they were performing very well. So they for sure did surprise me, but I think all those teams are gonna fall off a bit. And
yeah, Roccat already did. I
mean, Roccat actually
They perfect game.
Yeah,
Misfits today.
It's the perfect time. Let's talk about that. Did they fall off a little bit?
Roccat did have a perfect game.
They did. But they're in the standings. They're.
So I think Roccat is actually. I don't know. I think Rockat's top and mid are pretty good. Like
oh yeah, for sure.
The Koreans are really good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. They had a perfect game, guys. Roccat came in, struggles previously, irrelevant. Mento stood to Barons yesterday, and now the whole team comes together in the face of Misfits. They play so well. Prophet didn't get the Gnar, but he got the Camille, and he just popped off this entire game.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there, actually. That was some...
Yeah, that was some miscommunication, yeah.
So, to me, what this was a good indication of, right? So, in the meta, for the first 3 weeks of the EU LCS, it was like, everyone needs to pick scaling comps. Everyone needs to learn to team fight. You all have to go to late game. That's the rules. And every team that tried to run early game comp, sometimes they would get early leads and couldn't properly close out, or they would never find any early leads at all, and then the comp would just kind of fall apart. This week, we've been seeing way more focus on 1-3-1 comps, turning early leads into pressure on side lanes, and then being able to effectively utilize or out-team fight without actually having to team fight at all. And I think Roccat is a good demonstration of what you can do with an early to mid-game focused comp, and then transition that into a good 1-3-1 style of play.
And of course, Camille just such a powerful champion to do that. Perkz, is this something that we've been seeing more in scrims from your experience, that as teams are getting more comfortable, they're willing to try 1-3-1? Because I know the sentiment last week or for the first few weeks was like, in theory, you can play 1-3-1, but everyone just wants to sail because it's the safe bet.
I mean, like in scrims, 1-3-1 was played since the beginning. Like since the beginning of scrims, there is a lot of like variety of champs, but on stage, people just seem to play verse, or maybe the champions that you're picking, like the split push champions, are not getting advantages, so you're falling off. So it's hard to say what it exactly is, but like like Rise was for sure still like a highly contested pick. So Rise is good, and they played good with Rise. Like Roccat played really good with Rise. So they just managed to snowball the game with 1-3-1.
And that's interesting because next week we're on the new patch. And I
It's
wonder how effective Rise is going to be.
Blanc was, in fact, the #1. I don't have an actual stat to prove this, but Blanc felt like the #1 Rise TP alt abuser. Or
no, Exile was definitely worse.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's tough.
And he was 1-2. This guy in the first week of the LCS.
I was just saying this week, Blanc was #1.
Yeah, Blanc was using it the most. Yeah.
But outside of that change, Freeze, just to round out discussion on this matchup, what's your impression of the meta right now? Do you prefer seeing the 1-3-1 compositions, or do you like it more when teams are playing for these late-game scaling win conditions?
Well, I actually love the top laners. They are taking the initiative to play the champions that can push and roam a lot. Because then if you play something like Gnar, Camille, or even Ornn on top lane, and you just push your lane and you constantly roam mid lane, you put so much pressure onto the mid laner, then your mid laner has a lot of pressure and he can just roam bot lane or top lane as well. And they help each other this way, and then you just have the control over the map because of that pressure.
All right, well, now I want to take a look at the standings. We are coming into the end of the week. Let's see exactly how these teams have shaped up, how these teams are going to look coming in. One team I want to look as we wait to get those up on your screen is Vitality. They are still at the top. They still played a fantastic game today with a very, I think you could say, Ziggs. Is Ziggs back, or was this a very niche situation?
Hey, GT is ranked 2 actually. We were ranked 8 last week.
This is the hype of best of one, Perkz.
And Freeze was I was having a really interesting discussion with Freeze earlier where I think we have a super competitive league right now, and what you're seeing is the teams that are currently sitting at 4-4 are still trying to find their identity, and maybe it's the same for G2 right now, as we've heard all of the members be pretty critical of their performance, but it feels like that the teams that are now solidifying those wins, being a little bit more consistent week to week, are actually starting to see a style, something that actually works for the team, an identity for the squad that's allowing them to get to the top. And Vitality, they identified themselves very cleanly from the very start of the split, and Fnatic are now starting to find their form. And I am curious as to where Perkz thinks G2 and their form and identity is right now in the current split.
Form identity?
So, you know,
around mid.
like, yeah, so, like, if we think of Vitality, for example, they're a hyper-proactive early-game team, right? They love to, Gilius in particular, loves to spend a lot of time in the enemy jungle early on. And I'm wondering, do you, G2, have a style of play that you think works really well for you right now, or are you still trying to figure the best way to play with your current lineup?
I mean, maybe we do, maybe we don't. I'm not sure.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
Playing that card,
I'm not saying what works the best for us. But like for sure we are so far away, and every other team is so far away of what last year G2 was, and I don't know if we are ever gonna reach the point. I mean, not ever. I don't know if you're gonna reach the point in this split, because there is just so much work that people don't realize that.
You guys played together for so long, so it's gonna take definitely so much time to even get close to where you were before.
We are trying to move rapidly, but maybe it's the problem that we are taking it too fast and we are not improving at small things. We are gonna see, like, we are talking and we are trying to improve together all the time. Everyone is super willing, so that's nice to see. But it's just like, I know how much work it has to be laid down for us to actually become a very good team, and it's gonna be a challenge and it's a journey, but it's a fun journey that like I'm on now. You know, I cannot just escape the journey, so I'm just enjoying it and enjoying the progress. And we are seeing progress, especially in our practice, but I think that we have problems translating some of our like scrims performance on stage, which is like something that I've never had before. And yeah.
I mean, I think you're still playing very consistently, very well in LCS, and you're one of the shining lights of G2.
Perkz versus Nuke yesterday was super hype, dude.
I mean, for now,
I think I'm making a lot of mistakes. Like I'm just
maybe I'm just so gumpy. You know, I don't see them anymore.
I play so much better. Right?
No, of course, of course.
But I mean, for now, you guys are in second place. You're tied. You're at the top of the standings. Wadid and Hjarnan both talking about being super motivated. You're super motivated. So it seems like things are going pretty well for G2 at the moment. Now, the 80 carries in Europe have left their mark on the split so far. So for a closer look at some of these damage dealers, Hjarnan among them, we are joined by Aaron Medic Chamberlain.
Thank you very much, Dracos. I am here for a brand new segment called Dissecting the Numbers, where I break down some statistical anomalies we may be seeing in the EU LCS. As Dracos said, today's focus is on the AD carries or the marksman, a vital part for any team. AD carries are exactly what your team needs if you want to shred through some frontline tanks, or if you want to get on towards those backline squishies. And just why are they so important? Well, if we look at the damage percentage that AD carries were doing in summer of last year, they were down at about 27%, whereas now they've gone up 5 percentage points to just about a third of their team's damage when it gets towards the late game. If you want to win a game, your AD carry needs to be outputting some high numbers for you to carry yourself to that victory. Who's a good example of this, I hear you ask? Well, there's one prime example in the EU LCS. It's Kobe, the man from Splyce, alongside Kasing. Kobe is an incredible influence on whether Splyce will win or lose a game. If you look at the damage percentage he's doing in wins, it's over 40% of his team's total damage. In losses, it's a measly 28%. This equates to about a 400 damage per minute difference, which is more than some players do just by themselves anyway. Kobe is one of the key reasons that Splyce are able to win, especially if they can get him to the late game. What we've decided to do, myself and the EU LCS stats team, is try and work out a way to rank our AD carries as objectively as possible. Now, it's very difficult to do, and there's always some personal bias when it comes to a tier list. So this is what I decided we needed to have a look at. Firstly, damage per minute, incredibly important for AD carries. Alongside that, the damage per minute difference. How much more damage is an AD carry doing than their opposite man? Next up, probably the most complicated of our stats is damage share over gold share. This means for every percentage of the team's gold, how much damage percent is that player doing? I'm going to talk about it as gold conversion. How much of your gold are you converting into damage? Creeps at 15 minutes is incredibly important, and the difference between you and your enemy AD carry can win you the game. And then deaths per minute. AD carries just can't die, especially in the late game. If you die, you cost your team so much damage. So let's have a look at my diagnosis, our tier list for the EU LCS. This is the average rank of each player across those categories that we looked at. And if you look on the right of the screen, that is the rank that the players have. Hansama out in front, as expected. Up until this week, he was actually 3 whole ranks ahead of anyone else in the league. This week, not so good for him. Getting perfect games doesn't help your stats, but he's still sitting pretty at the top. Then you have Reckless, and surprisingly, Hiku bringing up the numbers there. Low deaths, high damage a minute. Hiku is actually an incredibly underrated AD carry in the meta. As we go down the list, some names to be expected near the bottom. Steelback not having the best of performances. Sheriff and Samix near the bottom. But Hyanan really needs to up those numbers if he wants to be seen as one of the best AD carries here in Europe. That's it. Hansama's at the top. He's the guy everyone's gunning for. Let's hand it back across towards you, Dracos, on post-game lobby.
Thank you for the diagnosis, Medic. Interesting to hear. Turns out getting perfect game takes Hansama down a notch. Bumps Hiku just a little bit up.
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right, well, week 4 gave us a lot of highlight moments, and you guys went on Twitter and gave us your favorites. Here are your LCS big plays brought to you by Acer. And everything looked pretty lost for Vitality. They fell short in a team fight versus Roccat, and with his team defending the base, Minitroopak saw an opportunity to save the game. So with the power of Spellbook, he teleported to the top lane for a thrilling finish.
They're going to try to keep taking out the base. They're forcing a fight. Put the camera back into the Roccat base right now. We've got the longest game of the split, and Minitroopak is looking to do it all alone. Oh, I can't believe it. One more hit is going to do it, and they're just going to lock the game. Nice, nice, nice.
Cancel. Don't let them in.
I'm not.
Fucking easy, actually.
Did we win?
GG.
Did
Easy.
we win?
Nice.
And him, he's screaming because he knows he's won the game. The team's like, "Wait, have we won yet? Are we actually winning the game?" He's like, "Yes, let's go!"
Perkz like, did you win, guys?
Heads off the keyboard already.
I almost wanted to get out of his chair. I feel like, so I've heard from you guys already what you think. You guys were here to experience, but Perkz, I haven't heard your opinion. When you're watching that game, how did it feel to watch an end like this in Vitality's favor?
It's just like, wait, who was it? Was it Roccat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Vitality versus Roccat.
Oh, just a huge blows for Roccat.
Blows.
Blows.
It feels so.
That's all I was thinking. Like,
And it's almost to add insult to injury, of course, because before we got there, Roccat actually earned themselves a big lead after some incredibly clutch Baron steals. Memento came up huge in the Smite battles, and that was against God Gilius himself, stealing from a God.
Blanc, he can come in for a collapse around the side, but that Baron is going low real fast. This is a 40-minute Vitality squad. Memento looking to come in. Can he get the smite? He can do it! Oh, Memento! You beautiful man! He stole it away! Baron is already regenning here, and the rest of Vitality trying to back away. Meanwhile, Prophet still engaging Cabo, trying to push. The difference is that teleport would have to come in for Prophet to have that impact. Already down to half the health. Narskaran going around the side. Memento looking to see if he can make it 2 for 2. He goes over the wall. The shuffle's not going to stop it again. He does it twice. Are you kidding me? Memento!
I ultimate.
Wait, they're starting again. We can poke. I can go flank. 6k.
Let's fight after.
5k. Yeah, I think can.
Okay, fight.
Okay, careful, Ara. Good answer. Nice, we got it.
Back.
I'm behind.
Back. Hey,
Surprisingly calm calls.
Yeah, very casual. Like, comparing it to the first game, is literally not relaying any information other than screaming his head off. All right, now, our final replay, one that I'm sure you're going to be excited about. Perkz, there's been a lot of people contesting you in the lane kingdom. Nuke Duck yesterday was going toe-to-toe. He was taking it to you in the mid-game. But in one daring moment, in one final ambitious play, the heroic needle thread coming in from you yourself. Let's watch it one more time.
Bot lane, we still have to look at Nuke Duck versus Wunder, because it's Nuke Duck who's been winning the 1v1 every time. He can jump in, he picks the trade, and then he jumps back. Wunder can't really return enough fire. He can shoot him once in the face with the gun. That seems to be about it.
Oh my goodness! Nuke Duck gets nuked by Perkz!
That was absolutely insane!
What's gonna Blanc? I think we have to give it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can fight here. We can fight here both, okay?
Yeah, the free mid. Can you chase them? Nice. Actually, they didn't start. They didn't start. Okay. Look for TP.
I respect that your comms were also disciplined. I just wish more people in Europe would scream stuff. I mean, I know it's technically my job. I just wish other people would share, you know, the burden when it comes to screaming at hype plays.
Jankos is known for screaming. Just wait a bit.
Our comms, like when Jankos got Tristana on top, like Tristana! Screaming Tristana, like, I don't know, Jankos is so hyped, like sometimes, like.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
But that was a sick play from Perkz.
Yeah, have to
threading the
praise
needle
you.
right through the minion wave. He did make a tweet when Zoe was released. I'm going to be the best Zoe in, I want to say Europe, but he might have said the world. I'll give him Europe for now.
I said the world for sure.
Okay, he said the world for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
Perkz
he's
does not
definitely
settle.
up there with his base performances so far.
I mean, threaded the needle. What did you expect to hit that Q through the creep wave? Was that like perfectly timed on your part to anticipate, or were you just eyes on Nuke Duck and it happened to go through?
I just said eyes on Nuke Duck. There is no way I would lie to people and say, yeah, I knew the Q was gonna go 6 creeps. It was gonna go on Nuke, but it was the only play I could do. And sometimes, like, you just have to do the plays that, like, if I didn't kill LeBlanc there, they would get Nash. And LeBlanc, or if he went to Nash, LeBlanc would end the game. So basically, the game was really lost. And sometimes when the game is lost, you have to go for those like crazy plays, kind of outplays, and just hope for the best. And I mean, I played it fine, but it was like
Fine.
I had to do it, so it's easier to do it.
Had to do it. I like that you said played it fine for landing the perfect clutch long-range Q onto a champion with multiple dashes, but fine. Played it fine. All right. I wish I could play fine sometimes. Well, as the dust settles in week 4, let's look ahead at our matchups coming up next week, starting at 6 p.m. this coming Friday. Big one I want to talk about, G2 playing Vitality and Misfits next week. Perkz, how are you feeling about your schedule?
Well, it's a tough schedule, and if we play like as we played this week, we are gonna go 0-2. And if we improve throughout this week of scrims, which we have 5 days or like 4 days of scrims, we can definitely beat both teams. I don't think those teams are like, I don't think that any team in Europe right now is very good. Like, I think all of us are rather just like meh instead of like good teams, because there is just so many mistakes that like the public doesn't even realize. Like, it's quite sad to watch and play, if I'm being really honest right now. And I just hope that we can improve fast. And if we can, it's a 2-0, yeah.
Yeah, still holding yourself to that old G2 standard.
Yeah, because The thing is, I feel like that so many European players hold themselves to a much higher standard. Like, obviously, one of the things that pros always do is compare themselves to the Koreans, but like, what is the gap? What really separates like the current play from what you consider to be top, really good quality League of Legends?
Well, it comes to playing to your game plan, so not making stupid mistakes that are not in your game plan, and just having better understanding of the game, which these like players right now don't have. Teams don't have. Teams are just not aware like how the proper League of Legends is played. So yeah, I can't go too much in details because it's very hard to explain as well.
Yeah,
but it's basically just game plan, and there doesn't seem to be anything as a game plan right now as compared to Worlds, where I knew what was gonna happen in a game the whole time, and if you made a mistake, you would like we still know how to play with mistake, and it's just a lot different, and it's very strange, and it takes me some time to adapt because I'm not used to playing like this. So changes in communication and just how we play as a team is like hitting me in the early mid game. But I'm trying to adapt, and I'm trying to be more like just being able to adapt, but it's hard for me. So
that's fair.
All right, just to round this whole thing out, G2 versus Vitality, first day. Perkz, you don't feel 100% confident, but I'd still love to get some predictions from the panel before we end here. So we'll start with you, Vidius. G2 or Vitality Friday next week?
Right now, I have to go with Vitality. I feel like they're way too consistent in their ability to play around the early game. They seem super clean this week in how they were able to close things out. And I think
except for the
yeah, forget that one. Forget the first game. The second game. That's the Vitality I'm expecting to show up next week.
Right. Yeah, for me as well, Vitality. As long as they don't try to play late game and they just pick something unique, aggressive, then it's going to be Vitality.
Perkz.
G2 is gonna win.
That's what I mean. I know you kind of have to. That's what I would say. You're good, reliable. See, one man on this desk has faith in G2. That's what matters. All right. Well, over in NALCS, their week is just about to start with TSM versus Clutch. TSM. Sven and Mithy, let's go versus Clutch Gaming. That's Featherfin. European players everywhere.
Oh, this is so hype. I need to watch this.
All right. Well, if you didn't catch all the action from the EU LCS tonight, we are having a rebroadcast after the show in Los Angeles. But for now, that is all from us here in week 4 of the Spring Split. Of course, thank you so much for joining me, guys. Maybe we'll watch some NALCS next as well. And we're going to see you guys next week as the EU LCS continues on Friday. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much for joining me, guys, and see you next week.
Dang, Perkz is on it, dude.
Niski needs to try and get away from this. The paddle start connects. One more auto would be enough. Sassy here with the block. Jizuke jumps in. That's a great kill for Vitality. Niski's going to jump the wall, and that will be a dead Jizuke, but Niski goes down as well. And Mini Trueback is here for some vengeance.
Sayonara, baby. Be patient, yeah? Hey, Kizan!
They defeated everyone. They'll take down the Nexus. Upstairs kill Cagel on the other side of the map. It's Selby looking for Chachi. Is it the first one? No! No, H2K cannot get a kill for love nor money. But they've got a darn fast one to boot. Schalke taking over H2K from Misfits. Cosmic Radiance. Here comes Profit onto the back line. This is going to be a double. You have to feel on Summer's dead. Mickey flashes, but the follow-up flashes come in. And Roccat get 2.
Good job, guys.
Chunked out Alfari. Going to fall double knockout. Profit and Hiku on the chaser, and Alfari, even the shield can't save you now. Roccat get 4. Maxwell jumps in, Memento, no scaring all in the midst of it all, but Memento still has his stopwatch somehow. So does no scaring, the Nexus goes down, and Roccat get the perfect game over Misfits.
Big and not about to block. Gonna go jumper, there's the ignite, the tick, the burn! Suez with the outplay, and Broxa takes down Joko! Oh no, Giants, what was that? Giants knocked into the air, the flash follow from Broxa gets even more, Giants haven't respawned, they want the ace, Ruin forced to run for his life, Reckless firing away at the base of the fountain, it's not enough, and Fnatic destroy Giants!
You just saw the Zac moving towards the river.
It'll be dead by the time they get there.
They're pinging, but they can't get it.
What? G2 Esports steal a Baron, steal the hopes of the Unicorns of Love. And G2 Esports, they take down the Unicorns.